Hey there guys and dolls, Slippery Slope is here with tutorial number 21. And if these tutorials were ages, you would now be old enough to drink, but you wouldn't want to think that way because you'd get really old as we went along, and that's not what we want to do. Now, last time we see what happens when you create an additional class and come up with a method in that additional class and have our regular old class, our first class, Mr. Dumble, call that method and have it run. We used it to print out a message onto our screen, and that was a really simple example of how to do that stuff. So hopefully you guys followed along, and because we're going to make more videos that build upon that premise. So we're going to take a one tutorial break from that sort of programming, and we're going to program a for loop. I already wrote one up here using a traditional example of a counter that I found in some of my old teacher's notes. No, I didn't steal the code. I based it off of it, though. I was inspired by it. So, yeah. Here's the thing. We had do-whiles, we had whiles, and now we have fors. And think of it this way. Let's come up with a mnemonic device. For, well, Fred, of do-while be D, and while will be wins. So if you want to be ironic and say Fred Durst wins, there you go. That'll be our mnemonic device. Now, with the for loop, there are three parts of it. And the first part is where we give an initial value to the variable we want to run. And counter is an example you often see because a lot of people use for loops just to say, what if we have a variable and keep increasing it until we get to a certain point, and then have the for loop stop running? So we're going to keep counter, and we're not going to come up with anything funny. We're going to keep it called counter, and we'll initialize it at 0. You absolutely do not have to do that, and also you could declare the counter variable outside of the loop, but we're going to do it inside the loop just because. And our test, well, we want to make sure that counter stays less than 22. That's kind of strange, so let's go with that. And we're going to want it to increment at the end of every iteration that this thing runs. So inside, we're going to system it out.print line, because if we did print, everything would just kind of stack together in one row, just one line of numbers and stuff, and we don't want that. You can always do something fancy like put in a tab, and we'll learn a little bit more about how to do some of those things in a future video. Perhaps that could be the next video now that I think about it. But we're just going to have the counter variable print out on screen and maybe some text. So we're going to print we are at then a colon, and then one space because Java ignores white space, and we're not going to erase like I just did. We are at colon space end quote. There you go, and then we're going to print it on screen. So let's run this. And it starts with we are at 0 because we started at 0, and this increment ain't going to happen until the end. So it says we're at 0, printed the counter out on screen. Well, we're at 1 now, right? So it runs again at 1. And remember, the increment ain't going to happen until the end. So then it prints out we are at 1. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it keeps printing out until we're at 21. So it prints out 21. But remember, we already ran the increment, so we're at 22, even though 21 was printed out. So when we go back and, our counter's at 22, our program sees, okay, yeah, we did initialize it to that. And, oh, our counter is no longer less than 22. It is 22. So no, we're not going to print out we are at 22 because it would be equal to this magical number 22, which I think in a Peanuts comic they called Twiddly 2. Or some imaginary number one of the characters made up. So, yeah. Is there anything else I want to tell you guys? Sure. This part of the for statement, this first part, again, is the initialized part. This is the test that we're running, and this is the update. So that would be ITU, initialized test update. And if we're going to play mnemonic devices again, we're going to go with it's totally unreal. So again, remember, Fred Durst wins, believe it or not, and it's totally unreal. So that's about it. Keep on rolling, baby. And if you like this video, feel free to subscribe. Thanks, guys. Slippery Slip signing out. Peace.